The Bitcoin attention trap and why utility is still underpriced. Let's just say it. Most of the world still thinks crypto begins and ends with Bitcoin. Outside the space, if you bring up digital assets, people answer with a shrug. That Bitcoin thing? Inside the space, even veterans get hypnotized by Bitcoin dominance and ETF flows. And look, I get it. Bitcoin earned the brand. Digital gold. Hard money meme. Scarcity. Cool. But brand isn't throughput. Brand isn't settlement. Brand isn't low-cost, high-speed value movement between regulated institutions that have to close their books every single day. On Bitcoin Layer 1, transactions are slow. Fees swing. Capacity is thin. You can bolt on Layer 2s like Lightning, but now you're managing channels, liquidity routing, trust, UX friction, and more attack surface than most compliance teams want to sign off on. Some people can live with that. Banks moving size? Not so much. Meanwhile, there's an entire corner of this market building purpose-built ledgers for actual jobs. Moving money across borders without trapping capital, plugging stablecoins into mobile cash networks, logging enterprise data for audits, and pulling trade finance out of a paper swamp. These ledgers sit way below Bitcoin in market cap, sometimes tiny compared to the trillions that slosh around legacy finance. That disconnect is the trade. That's why we're here. Here's the lens I want you to use going forward. When regulation shows up and big money is allowed to touch this ecosystem at scale, it will not flow first to the no utility premium. It will flow to rails that reduce cost, reduce friction, or free trapped capital. That's XRP, XLM, HBAR, XDC. Remember that as we move through the rest of this breakdown. What these four networks actually do? Simple, no fluff. Let's break it down the way I'd explain it if we were just talking over coffee. No slides, no jargon, just the core job each one is built for and why big money would ever bother using it. XRP, the liquidity bridge. Banks currently lock up trillions in Nostro and Vostro accounts just to make cross-border payments work. That's dead capital, money sitting idle. Ripple's play is simple. Use XRP as a real-time bridge so banks don't have to pre-fund every single corridor. It's in, it's out. Settlement done in seconds instead of days. If regulators fully greenlight that model, the amount of trapped capital that could be freed is enormous. This is balance sheet optimization on a global scale. That's why XRP matters. It's about efficiency at the deepest level. XLM, last mile money. If you want adoption that actually changes lives, you go where the system is broken, where banking is scarce, remittance fees are daylight robbery, and cash pickup points are still the norm. Stellar's anchor model lets regulated partners issue digital tokens backed by fiat, moving value instantly. Add in MoneyGram's cash-in/cash out reach and the fact that USDC runs on Stellar, and you've got real people in real countries moving value across borders without losing 20% to middlemen. It's fast, cheap, and designed for financial inclusion from day one. HBAR, Enterprise Trust Layer. When you step into the world of Fortune 500 companies, banks, and global supply chains, the priorities change. They want predictability, governance, and auditability they can show regulators without sweating bullets. Hedera's council model gives that big names sitting at the table making decisions. Combine that with fast finality, low predictable fees, and a carbon-negative network, and suddenly you have the perfect environment for tokenization, carbon credits, regulated data logs, compliance-heavy reporting, and enterprise-grade assets. As ESG rules tighten and digital reporting becomes mandatory, Hedera goes from interesting to essential. XDC Trade Finance Unlocked. Global trade finance is a nightmare, paper-based, slow, duplicated, and heavily gatekept. Small exporters wait months to get paid because credit is locked behind layers of inefficiency. XDC changes that by tokenizing trade documents, letters of credit, invoices, receivables, so they can move quickly, be verified instantly, and plug into global liquidity pools. Its hybrid design keeps sensitive data permissioned while anchoring trust on a public chain. If even a fraction of the $5 trillion trade finance market moves on-chain, XDC sits in a flow most people aren't even watching yet. For different problems, for different solutions, but one megatrend. Money is leaving paper and old rails for digital systems that cut friction and free liquidity. That's the thesis. That's why these networks exist, and why this next shift could be the biggest one yet. Stablecoins and tokenization. The money pipe about to burst. If you want to front-run real money, follow what already moves, not what trends on crypto Twitter for 24 hours. Stablecoins are already clearing eye-watering value across public chains every month. Payroll pilots, B2B settlement between fintechs, emerging market merchants stepping around broken banks, treasury desks moving parked dollars on weekends when legacy wires are closed. That flow is real. And here's the key. It's scaling before we even get full regulatory clarity. Once lawmakers lock in proper stablecoin rules, transparent reserves, audited reporting, guaranteed redemption rights, custody standards, you strip out a massive chunk of institutional hesitation. That's when the fence-sitters jump. Banks, payment processors, global platforms, they all need clear rules before they size into anything at scale. The day that switch flips, stablecoin usage isn't just crypto-native. It becomes financial plumbing. And stablecoins are only the first wave. Everything that sits on balance sheets today is moving toward digital wrappers. Short-term treasuries, money market fund shares, bank deposit tokens, tokenized cash equivalents, gold, carbon credits, real estate trusts, private credit pools, trade receivables, the list keeps expanding. Why tokenize? Faster settlement, programmable compliance, instant collateral mobility, automated payouts, integrated reporting. When assets move faster, capital turns over faster. Faster turns equals better yield. That's why institutions care. Now ask the next question. Where do those tokenized assets actually live? Where do they settle when two regulated parties need low fee, high certainty, auditable rails? That's where our four networks slot in. Here's how the flow lines up. A stable dollar value jumps chain to chain looking for cost, liquidity, and jurisdictional fit. Networks that connect to banks or regulated issuers get first shot at volume. That's a lane for XRP when it bridges between fiat pools and stablecoin liquidity, especially across corridors where pre-funding is expensive. Retail and last-mile redemption still matters. If a large stablecoin issuer wants global reach into cash pickup networks or mobile wallets, Stellar/XLM and its anchor model are built for exactly that. Move digital dollars, redeem local currency, repeat. Remittances, aid, payouts, gig workers, it all rides the same pipe. Enterprise balance sheet assets need audit trails. When a fund tokenizes treasury bills, or a corporate issues a digital commercial paper instrument that must pass compliance review, they need governance, logging, and predictable fees. That's Hedera/HBAR territory. Tokenize it, log it, prove it, settle it. Trade paper becomes collateral only if lenders trust the data. Tokenized invoices, letters of credit, and shipping docs that plug into financing pools need hybrid privacy plus shared proof. That's XDC's wheelhouse. Permission data zones on one side, public state anchors on the other, and suddenly an exporter in one country can tap liquidity from lenders halfway across the world. See the pattern? Stable coins are the liquid layer. Tokenized assets are the value layer. Utility networks are the movement layer. You need all three to unlock scale. Let me put it another way. Imagine a future trade where a manufacturer in Vietnam ships goods to a retailer in Europe. Payment is structured in a regulated dollar stablecoin. Shipment data is hashed to a ledger. Financing against that receivable is tokenized so a global fund can provide working capital same week instead of month-end. Customs clears. Delivery confirmed. Settlement posts automatically. Which rails do you think that workflow prefers? A slow batch wire that closes Friday at 5, or a 24/7 programmable network with embedded compliance triggers? This is where the money moves when the rules are clear. And we're already hearing the policy tell. When a major global bank walks out of meetings in Washington or Brussels and says regulators spent more time talking about stablecoins than about Bitcoin, that's not random. Policy oxygen follows systemic risk. Payments and liquidity matter to governments. Speculative price chatter doesn't move policy, but payment stability does. So attention in the regulatory stack is shifting exactly toward the instruments, stablecoins, tokenized deposits, programmable settlement, that feed into the networks we just covered. Price usually lags that shift. First, regulators talk. Then frameworks draft. Then institutions test. Then liquidity ramps. Then charts wake up and retail sees candles. If you wait for the candle, you're late. So track the right signals: total regulated stablecoin float, which chains issuer support, volume concentration by rail, pilot announcements tied to payroll or payments, treasury tokenization projects, trade digitization mandates, and audit frameworks going live. Each green light is fuel for XRP, XLM, HBAR, and XDC in different but connected ways. The money pipe is building pressure. When it bursts, it won't ask permission from meme season. Regulation. The switch that turns attention into allocation. Let's not sugarcoat this. The big money isn't here yet. The number one reason: regulatory fog. Compliance teams can't approve what they can't map. Risk committees can't model unknowns. Banks can't price exposure when accounting rules are gray. That fog is thinning. Right now, we've got stablecoin bills moving through committees, market structure frameworks getting hammered out, and lawmakers calling digital assets a national priority. Every line of clarity chops down the risk premium institutions slap on crypto. And when those red lights on compliance dashboards flip to yellow, then green, allocation hits like a freight train, faster than most retail traders can even react. Here's how it always goes. Draft language leaks, speculators nibble. Committee markup clears, smart money positions. Full vote passes, beta spikes. Signature into law, real flows start. Custody deals, treasury pilots, partnerships, bank integrations. If you wait for the CNBC headline, you're already chasing green candles. And remember, this isn't a one-country game. The US might greenlight stablecoins first. Europe already rolled out MiCA. APAC is running sandboxes at full speed. LATAM is moving fast because broken payment rails demand it. That's why holding a basket across different functions, liquidity bridges, last-mile cash-out, enterprise tokenization, trade finance, isn't just diversification, it's exposure to whichever region opens the gate first. Regulation is the catalyst that turns attention into allocation. And that switch is halfway down already. How I'd be positioning into the shift. Not financial advice. Here's the real talk, how I'd play this if I were building positions right now. First, know your why. XRP for cross-border liquidity. Banks using it to free trapped capital. XLM for last-mile remittance and stablecoin access. Where banking is broken, this wins. HBAR for enterprise tokenization and audit-ready data. Think carbon credits, digital reporting, ESG compliance. XDC for trade finance, turning slow paper into fast, financeable assets. If you can't finish the sentence, I hold this because you're not investing, you're gambling. Second, build over time. I add core positions on red weeks, when macro fear crushes everything or when the crowd is hypnotized by hype elsewhere. Keep some dry powder for headline scares, lawsuits, bill delays, exchange drama. If the thesis hasn't changed, those dips are entries. Last slice? Breakout confirmation. Just enough to stay connected emotionally when things rip. Third, track real catalysts. Stablecoin bills clearing committees. Market structure votes. Court rulings. Partnerships that turn pilot corridors into live corridors. Hedera onboarding enterprise apps. Trade finance standards going digital. These aren't news pumps. They're long-wave signals. Put them on a calendar and set alerts before headlines. Fourth, protect what you build. Hardware wallets, split custody if your stack's big, track cost basis, and know the tax rules. If you expect 3x or 10x moves after clarity, don't get wrecked on compliance. Fifth, take profit in layers. Keep a core hold for the adoption arc, but when something doubles or goes vertical, skim some off. Rotate into lagging utility plays or park in stables for the next pullback. Always leave chips on the table for the long game. You don't need to nail the exact top. You just need to avoid riding full size all the way back down. The shift is already underway. Don't be late. The biggest reason people miss generational moves is that they stare at the wrong signal. Bitcoin grabs headlines. Memecoins trend. Utility hides. Until regulation turns the lights on and institutions need rails that actually work. When that wave hits, you don't get polite warning. Liquidity rotates. Narratives flip. Charts gap. If you hold XRP, HBAR, XDC, or XLM, you're early to where real settlement, stablecoin movement, tokenized assets, and trade finance are headed. Stay focused on use case, regulation, and real adoption, not noise. Drop a comment. Which one do you think re-rates first, and what's the catalyst? I'll feature the sharpest takes in an upcoming video. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share this with someone who still thinks crypto equals Bitcoin. Let's wake them up. This is not financial, tax, or investment advice. Crypto is risky and volatile. I'm sharing research, opinions, and market frameworks. Always do your own research and never invest money you can't afford to lose.